All right. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Joseph H. Vertino, and this is my podcast on my YouTube, which is Joe Vertino. Oh, and I also have another channel that's just Joseph Vertino, two channels, Joe Vertino and Joseph Vertino. I am a Reiki master healer in the tradition known as Usui, and a spiritual guide is my main title. I'm also an author of several books, the most important being The Reform of the Education System. If you type in my name here without the doctor, you'll get it me on Amazon, Joseph H. Vertino. And I'm also a musician. I have music blocks on my YouTube channels that you can find. I also have a SoundCloud account under capital J, lowercase OE, space HV, Joe HV. And I am here today with my friend Lawrence Valencia. We made a podcast on his channel, and now we're making a podcast on my channel, and he's absolutely lovely. And I can tell he takes spirituality seriously. That's what I would like to say about him first. And so the title of our podcast today is Metaphysics and Human Nature. So this is my friend Lawrence. Please
Hello,
introduce.
thank you for having me, and I'm Lawrence. I'm a psychic surgeon. I'm also a Akashic reader, channeler, or medium, and I do alternate self or higher self or lower self illustration, and I do spiritual life coach. And we have an upcoming event like on my group on November 11, which is something to do with accepting new destiny, divine twin, and new soulmates. But I'm not gonna plug in any more details at it. I'll put some more information later on my group, which is Angel Sergalia Collective, which is my collective as well. So if you're interested, just click the link.
Wonderful. All right. So um, before we started recording, I asked my new friend, Mr. Lawrence, what is your bread and butter of the topic of metaphysics? And he gave me the answer of basically the having to do with manifestation and relationship of the individual with the universe. And I am elated to bring that topic up and excited to hear more from my friend. Go ahead and tell us more about that.
Where do we start? So let's start with the universe as a reflection of yourself. When you say universe, it's technically you in verse. So you as a reflection. And there are more couple of ways how we can approach this reality, but I can tell a lot of topics about it. But what happens is that what is happening in your reality right now is technically within, especially right now where everyone is talking about spiritual progress and everything, is that your triggers are being pushed
Mhm.
so that you go up on a higher reality or alternate reality that you are in right now. That's a deep rabbit hole, but when I say alternate reality or timelines, is that how do you say this? We exist in a multidimensional, multi-layered reality. It's not one line, past, future. That's it. There's no preset. There's no one line. Technically, it's more like branches and going back into one. And how I can say that, let me go back a little bit. I was a skeptic, scientific skeptic, until 2023. I am so in science, and I don't believe spirituality.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. And what happened is that I got a super extreme awakening that I started to question this reality. And ever since then, I have encountered multiple things that this reality couldn't explain to me, and that evolved to my own truths. Now, when I say truths, everyone have their own truths, and everyone have their own stages in their reality or their spirituality. So some may be advanced, some are still waking up, but it's not a race. It's like me in fourth year college and you in first year. I cannot really say, oh, I'm fourth year college, but eventually in 3 years you'll be in fourth year college. Same thing with spirituality. There's no bragging on how advanced you are up because everyone will eventually reach that point. So let's go back to timeline. I call it timelines and timeline jumping. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
best example that we can give is that it's like TV. Everything is happening right now, but the channel you're in is dependent on your perception and thoughts and your vibrational and frequency, technically, and where you're vibrating in or which one are you resonating in. It's like an antenna. You turn your channel 2, it will try to pick up channel 2, and that's what you will see. But it doesn't mean channel 1 and 3 and 4 doesn't exist. It's there, it's playing, but you're right now on channel 2. Now, when you people who haven't awakened, they think it's a predetermined like one line linear past, present to future. That's it. I mean, it's no navigating away from it. There's no free will. Everything is recorded. All you have to do is fulfill. So when I say timeline jumping, you're technically switching your channels to 3, 4, 5 to the highest that you can achieve. You can achieve. I'll give you examples on how what happened when I started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
When this is the causes first. What dictates your reality is your what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what is your perception on how you see the reality, and what is your actions. So that's and if you take those four things, you will realize that worrying is the most worst kind of manifestation tool because you're emotionally investing in it. All your focus and energy is on it. You're already projecting the future, worrying about it. And your actions is reflecting that that future is coming. So that's it. The more you focus on that worrying, the more it high most likely to happen. Right. So what happened is that there's multiple times in my reality that my guides or my spirit team gave me a task. And when I shift my perception out of it, my
Mm-hmm.
reality changed. When I said reality change, people, places, past and past and future changes. I'm gonna go out a little bit. Every timeline, channel one, 2, 3, and 4, have different past and future. So as long as you hold on to a definition, let's say, my mother is so abused me before, or something like that in that past, you hold it. But somewhere down the road of your spirituality,
Yeah.
you revisited it, forgive what happened, and suddenly you realize that it was meant to be for you to ascend, and you let it go. And you can even deny it, or technically outright say that it's different now. You will notice that that thing disappears like it didn't happen, and your future and even people around you changes. I'll give you an example. One of
Mm-hmm.
my tasks before is that when I'm starting to open up into spiritualities, they say, "Can you post it on your Facebook in public setting?" I was like, no, they're gonna say I'm crazy or I'm nuts because I'm the one who's only one seeing it.
Uh-huh.
But how if I say it out, then they will say you're crazy, you're nuts. So I was in that frame at that time. But since surrendered totally back then because there's too much synchronicity and miracles that happen from following, I pressed the button. post public, in one day, we got a new neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And this neighbor is super spiritual. And this neighbor said, start talking spiritual. It when they become close with my family and they started talking spiritual stuff. Then I get to talk about my spiritual stuff and it started planting a seed to my family or to my reality. Now it's instead of they're thinking I'm crazy, they're now thinking, hey, probably he's right because it's not just him talking about it. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the next time I post another clip, my neighbor who I always talk to, we only talk renovation.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
next time we meet, sorry.
Okay. So that's a lot. We got a lot in there.
Yeah, sorry about that. I can continue like.
Sure.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. Yeah. We got a whole 10 minutes in there to start.
no. Okay.
Just on the bread and butter of yours personally, right? In
Hmm.
metaphysics. Um, so somewhere I want to go to kind of play a little golf, meaning like put up a flag where we're aiming, right?
Hmm.
Instead of just walking around in the field like it's we're in it and together and it's conversation. We have a flag over there. We're aiming, going to aim at it now in the conversation. So to that flag being, what was I going to say? Metaphysics. Uh, oh, that's what it was. Utility. So
Hmm.
utility. How I mean this is in the context of utility. I mean, so basically it means use. So if you think of metaphysics semantically, right? So we have the word meta, which means above,
Hmm.
right? You know how you have the things like the puppets, right? So the puppets have those little wood crosses, and then
Yep,
they'll have
yep.
strings, right? And then I think of in context in this kind of way of angels and channeling and higher realms. I think of the puppets as what we're perceiving on the stage of consciousness, and but the whole act and its function, right, being attempted to be understood right now with by us, right? And this analogy is that so upwards, right? So then up, but we can't see it, and the point of the play would be nil if we could see it, but we're working to understand it because we can't see it because it's literally the opposite of God's will. It's the opposite of the point because we're already inside our own limited experience so that we can perceive anything. Because you have to have a box, so to speak, meaning like a form in which to be in so as to have a continuity of experience, to have a life, right? So, this analogy of that you have the puppeteer idea and metaphysics. So, meta means above, and then physics is basically that what we can perceive as the puppets on the stage, right? So in
Hmm.
this kind of way, now in context to fill in the rest of the stuff of the analogy, thinking of the whole thing in the sense of the strings, right, and things like this, and I think of an interesting analogy in that is like connecting with yoga and the idea that they have the string. Imagine the string pulling up on your head, in yoga to get your spine kind of in this place of alignment, but it's a very intention based alignment. If you ask these yogis, there's a place in them where they have like this where they have this there's an aura about the posture without going into anything, but basically once you get into yoga properly, you start to develop it, and stuff like that. So in that essence though, we're the ones doing yoga, right? And some
Hmm.
yogis, if I even considered anything at the end of this sentence that's outside of that, they'd even want to like smack me with a stick kind of thing. But basically, in context of this discussion with metaphysics, because we're already talking about otherness, right? And meta, them being above or suspended out of physical reality. But the fact, which is technically proof, is that the fact that we're even talking about this topic being metaphysics, is proof that there's something in there that's like at least related to truth, meaning of the connection between us as physical beings and the higher realms, thus there being metaphysics as a topic to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that kind of way. Um, and basically, I guess what I was going to say was utility. So utility means, what if we think of the use? So, for example, you gave me, and I understand if this actually isn't answerable by you, or if it's difficult to answer, but I can already tell, knowing you thus far, I feel like you would probably, even if you were struggling with it, you probably still give me a solid answer. But just so you know, any of that's fine. um,
Okay.
but basically, what I mean by this is, I'll go with this so that it's clear for you before I have you go into answer. So there's a philosophy called utilitarianism. So utilitarianism is a philosophy created by a man named John Stuart Mill. And John Stuart Mill came up with this, and utilitarianism basically means for the greatest good of all. And basically, if you pit something against uh, the ethical foundation and fact of that we are part of a greater thing called our species, and that it needs goodness, and then you in that are in a place in your mind of utilitarianistic thought processes that are not the worst, to put it some kind of way, and they are pretty great to, for you to think that way. So basically we're kind of going into that now, and so utility in context of that, of utilitarianism. Um, so uh, so basically, how does this stuff that we're discussing fit into that paradigm or that kind of realm of thought? Uh, and then obviously that paradigm and that realm of thought not being separate from our actual practical real life is basically the general question, that I'm saying, that I'm asking. Um, I can put a few more words on if you want, or do you have something in there that you want to say?
Continue.
A little bit more, sure.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about, you use the word manifestation, the universe, our relation to it. And so, but this is the thing, is why I said that earlier, why you might struggle with it, is because it was a very personal, ultimately personal experience, your spiritual awakening, right? As you mentioned, you already said. So the thing is that with utility now, is how is the things that we are describing, how do they benefit, is the question, right? So is there something that you've discovered along in there, even on a emotional equilibrium level, right? Is there, of how they may have benefited or would continue to benefit, that is basically, it would be no other way but in the realm of objectivity. Objectivity means that it's all applicable, and just like the physical laws are, right? Objective. So how do these things benefit the community of the world?
Ah, I see. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, because there's too many deep words, so I'm trying to navigate through them. And so what I pick up is technically how the masses will be benefiting with, technically, on how, if this is, I mean, with what, with the topic we're talking about. Is that it?
Well, I mean, whatever way you want to answer, it's fine. But I mean, so metaphysics. So the topic is metaphysics and human nature.
Hmm.
So how does how does the realizations, we could say, or the entire thing of your, just in your personal experience, just give, if you can give me at least one of how is that beneficial and useful. That's really the whole thing.
Oh, I see. So
Yes.
there's plenty of ways, and the common theme of what my guides or the entities that have taught me is that their main focus is technically service for others, but for you to be of service of others, you have to save yourself first.
Yes.
And
Sure.
you, for you to do that, you have to climb this, because everyone, especially who are starting to progress now, like now, like you, like me, we are like different branches, and we will have different audiences. And all of our spiritual path have our own steps and experiences that will help us learn something that we will be needed off of us for the audiences or the people that we will be influencing later on, or technically we will be helping later on. And there's a lot of us which is in different aspects, but let me go back a little bit. So when I say to be of service is that either you be of service by offering services, offering free services. And when I say charge services, because you couldn't really operate with an empty cup. And the thing is that with this ascension, everyone is reconnecting back to their spiritual roots. And that is related to AI, but we can talk about that later on. But the thing is that everyone's abilities beyond Claire's are awakening right now. And those who are leading or who started awakening up like us is technically the ones who are starting to be, what do you call this, the providers or the way showers for the masses, that you don't have to be afraid. The old structure have been really not that stable anymore, and
Ah,
it's more
now,
like a new perspective.
yeah, that's me. Is yeah. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead, finish.
Sure.
I'll remember what I'm going to yell out.
In a simpler, I'll give you 2 points. There's a simpler tense that my guides always tell me. One is renovation. There is no space for you to create new if you don't break the old. You couldn't put in the right foundations if you don't break the old, which is not functioning for your highest good. So renovation. But the thing is that people start to focus on the chaos, the destruction, but they fail to realize that beyond that destruction is the creation of the new, which is more better than the old. And the thing is that the fear of the unknown is an old programming that is given from which the old society is teaching us for ego. Like
Mhm.
they're like always saying that you don't have to be creative, you just have to listen to us because we are the way. You don't need to study, you don't you have to study, you have to be indoctrinated through religion, through school, whatever. I'm not against those because it worked in the past,
Hmm.
but you will see a ton of changes moving forward, and some of you are already seeing it right now. Suddenly someone is starting to be homeschooled, which is out of the institution. Some of them are learning through not in the university but self learning in online
Yeah.
what they need. So technically if there's subtle changes that is pushing us to that direction, because when they did try to put it in one dump or one update for everyone,
Hmm.
it it became chaos and they have to redo it.
Hmm.
That's another rabbit hole,
Okay.
but yeah.
Well, okay. So basically, yes, and thank you for answering and providing, filling the atmosphere on the earth of the air that we breathe with more intelligence. So that's a fun sentence. Uh, and I guess um, um, I was going to add this part of an answer to my own question. In the answer of utility is understanding that if we're talking about, uh, I mean, we start in a very personal way,
Mhm.
and different things about your favorite part of metaphysics, and you talked about your spiritual awakening, and all of that. So all of that was very personal stuff, and we could be done with that, obviously, and talk about something a little bit more, I even want to say more politically correct in context of,
Sure.
on human nature level, and that, you don't need to expose any more of your personal self for us to have a successful podcast and people be educated, obviously. but I was going to say, to answer that question a little bit, obviously we're on the same side of intelligence, right? That's a side, right? And
Mhm.
this, who is against that side? Murderers are against the side of intelligence. So, but basically, to answer the question of how metaphysics and human nature and the universal connection between us that's always there and manifestation and us accepting, if you look at maturity, so education, maturity, those are beneficial things, and inevitable things, I see education as an inevitable thing, in that kind of way that it's God's will, and that naturally, even if someone isn't aiming to be educated, they still end up experiencing education. That's how I see
Yes.
it. And then maturity is maybe a little bit less inevitable, but also that if you see it as a survival mechanism, in the sense that if you are more mature on a survival instinct level of the collective, there's a dinging of a bell a little bit in there in the root chakra, right, of survival. That if you're mature, if you see a mature person who's offering something, offering a skill, and you see a less mature person who's offering a skill, the your root chakra will ding a little bit more for the mature person. Like if they were in a scientific experiment and they were like identical, except that this one was more mature, your root chakra would want to go to that guy, right, to the more mature person.
Hmm.
So that's just the thing. So, but if to answer this question of utility, I mean, all of that is an answer, but there's a little bit more in there. So, utility in the sense of understanding, like, how does this help me go to the gas station, right? How does this help me go to work? How does this help me picking a place to vacation? How does this help me understand politics and what I can do in exchange as an adult in it? How does it help me with getting through life, or not being an avoidance of my family, right? All of these different things, these different perspectives. And in that way, if you understand that all of those, I'll go with the most general possible one, and then we'll go on. So the most general possible one is, if you look at our general universe as kind of a blank slate, or that it's something that exists without us having to input something into it, like a CD, right? So that it's just
Hmm.
it. So if you understand in that as the actuality, that we don't, when we wake up in the morning, we don't have to think gravity on, right? The planets are gonna, right? That you have to think gravity, right? In order for, the for like the for everything to be okay, what it is, right? So if you understand that basically, uh basically us getting to a place of maturity is obviously aided by the metaphysical, in the way that you understand that people who are in the field already and always have been in the field of metaphysics, for example, like Moses in the Bible, was technically, we could say, in that general field, right, of metaphysics, in the sense that he was perceiving differently, that he was perceiving in ways that were personally religious experiences, but yet he was not an insane person. And he also has been widely known throughout human history and has been a emboldening figure. And all of that is it really important, right? But what claims it is not science, and it is not anthropology, is metaphysics, right? And theology and stuff, right? And so in that way, that's one answer, historically speaking, right? That will continue on. And there's no way for that to not be the case, because Moses's character has already been solidified, like in Star Wars with that Han Solo rectangle. You remember when Han Solo got frozen in that thing? So that's what happened now. So it's actually an impossibility for Moses's character in the Bible to not be permanently solidified throughout all possible human future, because just an impossibility. It is. I can tell as a philosopher, and saying the sentence. But basically, so my final answer to this is on just the most simple level, called relief. So if you understand that the metaphysics not being germane, or so like 100% uh, just the physical, and the physical realm being limited, and also being bound by laws, there's an immense relief potential just in metaphysics as, and then understanding the universe is not bound by our mind. So the physical universe exists inherently and separate from our individual personal will in that way, yet it is interactable with us, and vice versa. That's the physical universe in which we have to have our play, and in which is only the possible experiences we can have. Yet we're talking about metaphysics, and we're not seeing eye to eye with like Satan on why this is crazy. Because I feel like there's some person to be like, don't you hear yourself? You're saying we're bound to the physical world and we're stuck in this play. Are you trying to escape it with metaphysics? Are you in hell inside? But there isn't. It's just, and that to me is a, you can kind of breathe in that, and that there's a proof of God in it, that God wants us to be happy and not suffer needlessly. And to you, and the other thing, the paradox to some maybe atheists, is you actually, because you being in the worryless place provides you with more groundedness in your actual body, right? So which some atheists are seem to be obsessive about, and I, out of respect for myself and them, will not go further into at all. But basically, that's my general point on that. Is the answer to utility is that in science, just because it's true doesn't mean you're getting all of your needs met. There's a need for us to have general relief. And there is a relief that happens when you don't have the physical, the mind, hyper focused on the physicality, which happens when you get too much into goal oriented or cause and effect thinking. Like I am A and there's a line and it goes somewhere and it's called B. And then the hell is if you think that's the entire universe forever. So, and all metaphysics, we could say, kind of cut at that that's not true. And it's been proven already that there's, I mean, it's ultimately arrogant also to say that you already are at the bounds of everything, that you can't go further in your experience, which is really just a self-torturous experience. And thank God it's only yourself, not everybody, right? Like if you were God. Um, but yeah, so that's, so the answer is there's a relief in metaphysics. There's a relief in genuineness. And if you notice that your genuineness is leading you into this direction, right, rather than this or this way, right? I'm going left and right, and I'm going through Manhattan, and I have to get from this direction to this direction, and you get stuck in that, and you're more of a vertical, right? As they say in church, and this is my last point, as they say in church with the crosses in it, right? In Christian church, you have the vertical and you have the horizontal. So the horizontal is, if you were sitting next to me here, Lawrence,
Mm-hmm.
you would be sitting horizontal to me, right, where my arm is pointing, right? So you would be having uh, this kind of direction to have the relationship with what is there, which is like your eyesight, the physical world, right? Where you're facing, and all these things matter to that. Now, this way, now what's going on that way? Well, that way gets cut in half, right, by the vertical. So, what is the vertical? The vertical, I think of the chakras that go up the spine, which Jesus Christ had and eternally will have. Because I know sometimes Christian people get off the rails a little bit, like Jesus is God, I feel like I'm saying that uh, from personal experience with Christian people. But yes, so Jesus Christ, in that way, as is mentioned, this that Jesus Christ, the Ascended Master, Yeshua, the Ascended Master. There's a book written called The Human Aura by Dwal Kul and Lord Cthulhu, also Ascended Masters, and the chakras go vertical. We all have them. We all have chakras. Then this way, right, our arm span, our arms reaching out and communicating thing this way goes this way. Now, if you understand that sometimes they seem, and this I guess would be a point for like sociologists, they seem juxtaposed. So this is what it's going out into the world, and it's ourself, but it's in comparison, a relationship, inevitably something. And then what's this? Why is it juxtaposed? Because this is in relation to nothing, right? So this is vertical, that, and there's no thing that's relating it to it at all. Thus, it being like, when you think of meditation, there's a reason that your spine, and in yoga with the string analogy, that goes on, because you're going into a vertical plane in context of our now new understanding that I just presented with the cross, analogy, right? So that you're going into a place in your being where your perception begins to relax, and the mechanisms of the mind that you use for interactions and goal oriented stuff. I'm at point A. I need to get to uh, point B. And that gets kind of washed away. Like if you imagine the beach and the waves go up on the sand and then they hit. Oh, did it reach? It reached it. Okay. So now it's going to start that wave hit it again and it starts to wash away. Right. And that starts to wash away. And then you're generally still alive. You're not dead because of it going away. Right. And then that's now you have your own personal potentially religious experience at hand. And that is we could say on a simple terms, but kind of clear that it's a metaphysical experience because the physical was this thing, and you're still alive and you're still having an experience. So, and I guess, like I said, the utility or the use of that is general relief. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. And you could ask the psychologists in the field of psychology. And I also know that there has been problems with, and I understand it, that in psychology that people who are in that place of aiming to help everyone have struggled with suicidality, and struggling with suicidality in that sense because there wasn't enough relief, because there was so much of this shit, right, of the horizontal thing, and that's the end of the person's life. Then they end up killing themselves, and they could be a great psychologist, but that's literally what happened. They got caught in that and they didn't have relief. And so if you want the ultimate, most serious but real and mature answer, is that metaphysics provides relief to the trueness in the human that never goes away, no matter what, because it's still there, right? And some people would call that our innocence. Like when we were born, there's an innocent truthness that's there, and then it can't go anywhere for the rest of your life. And some people say for the rest of time, right? And the soul being eternal. So when you know you have a problem, is when you start to be in resistance, denial, or avoidance of that. Then you have an emergency. And metaphysics also is not ever supporting those three things: the denial, the avoidance, or the resistance of that. The true spirit that indwelleth. Yeah.
All good.
Is there anything coming up in you that you want to talk about now? Anything in particular?
Well, I have a few, but I got lost. So one is the utility. Um, in a sense, is that you know about soul contracts, right? Um, it's a
Yes.
little bit metaphysical out there, but soul contracts is technically you are fulfilling some kind of contracts, not beyond which is beyond yourself. And soul contracts or life purpose is sometimes as simple as helping a grandma across the street. It doesn't have to be grand and everything. And the thing is that when you say utility, what in turn that they are telling me about it, because when you're talking about it, I'm talking to them as well. So what we can relate to it, then what they're saying is that it's like a flow of river. What happens is that you have to focus in the present, what lands in your present, and you do your best to fulfill what lands on your plate. It's like if you keep on doing what lands on your plate and what is in your present,
Mhm.
then what happens is that you're gliding down the flow of the river without fighting it. But if you're trying to push
Yeah.
something, especially you already have multiple failures after failures about it, and you're still keep on pushing it for the point A to reach another point, that means is that you're like trying to go against the river while you can just where it's like a circle of a river, where if you just go with the flow, you will end up where you need to be just by being present and doing what's got landing on your plate rather than fighting the current, although it will land you on the same spot but it's gonna be harder.
Mm.
So in a sense, spirituality releases you from trying to, what do you call this, it just give puts you in the flow, and that flow releases your pressures.
Yes.
You don't need to give expectations to, you don't need to expect, you have to release expectations off of you as well. So you, what do you call this, you do what lands on your plate in the most simpler sense, because now you are going hyper present. Because if you don't appreciate what's in the present right now, or even find the joy in the simplest things in the present, you won't be able to be happy on the point that you're trying to reach, regardless if that's, you have 1,000 million dollars in your pocket, super sports car and a mansion. You will end up still unhappy because you couldn't appreciate everything in here. So spirituality releases you from that and opens you more for more abundance and more prosperity, because now you're appreciating everything to the smallest detail. Now universe will say, "Oh, you already like what you have. Okay, let's give you more." Technically, because if you're operating on, keep on complaining on what you don't have, universe will always say yes for everything. So I don't have car, but you can do the bus, right? So you don't appreciate that you have the money to go to the bus. Same thing with money, how you treat money. If like someone you say, look at that billionaire, he's evil, he's getting the money and everything. But what if there's a line there that you will become a billionaire? That in the sense, energy is money. I'll go a little bit. When they say mana, it's Earth's energy or something like energy around that. In the, I can't remember the, I'm not sure, Sumerian. They, it goes with the pyramids as well. They're extracting mana in like powdery form from animals and plants before, and they use it for powering. They call it superconductor or something, but
Mm,
they
mm.
use it on the pyramids and everything. I can't remember the topic where
Yeah.
I got this. Then what happened is that this is this almost Jesus used.
Are you?
This is
Did you
also the same thing that. Are you? Oh, there you go.
switch to
Um,
first
so the the Sumerian word, I can't remember the word for it, but they said mana. Then I
mana?
can't remember which mana. Then there's another, what do you call this? Another word for it from another civilization. They call it Shimana. Then you go Indian civilization, Verayuda, I think, I can't remember the exact word. They call it Vimana. And you go Buddhism, they call it Mani, Mani. And you go in this timeline, we call it money. It's a form of energy that we use for exchange for our civilization right now. And my main point is just that it's a form of energy, and if you trying to vilify whichever energy you're trying to ask or trying to like attract, I need more money, but the one who's holding too many money is evil. You're technically asking for universe to give you more money, but you're judging someone who have a lot of money, which in turn pushes it back. So it's becoming a tug of war. And that's why some people, when they say, when you become a, what do you call this, financial coach
Mhm.
or financial, if spiritual coach, the first thing that we will try to break is your beliefs and definitions about money. Example, if I have a money right now and I started kissing them and I say I'm spiritual, mo 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 mo, I love money. Someone, one of your audience will say, "Am I in the right podcast?"
Uh,
Because that guy is like kissing money. It's like greed or something. But I'll flip it. What if I have my grandson here and I say, "Mo mo 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 mo, I love my grandson." Everyone will say, "Wow, that's cute," in a sense.
hmm.
No, the abuse or greed of money is evil. The love of money and appreciation of what it's doing right now, because that's the only modality.
We can have
Sorry,
There you go. It's back.
someone's calling, so I just do. Yeah, so it's just the at this timeline, money is our mode of exchange, right?
Okay.
Money is
Yeah.
technically our mode of exchange, services and commodity and everything. And that's the thing. If someone is always keep on saying vilifying her beliefs about money, you're keep on asking, why am I complaining about my life and I need money? It's contradicting two forces and it disrupts the flow. So that's my main point. It applies to every single thing that you're manifesting. If you love to get a fancy car, but your belief is like, oh, those who have fancy cars are assholes, you're contradicting contradicting it. It's like you want to be a doctor, but you have a belief that doctors kill people as well. You're contradicting it. So I think, in a sense, it's like a energetic pull and push and pull. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question way too well, or I'm going all over the place or something.
No, I think you're doing fine. I think that was lovely. I mean, I was gonna say, um, so we're talking. Let's go. Let's focus more on the title, or yeah, come back to the title and kind of see, fill in some holes and see and think it through. So metaphysics and human nature, I think, is
Mhm.
so in context of
Ah,
human
I'll
nature.
give you I'll give you one that one.
Sure, sure,
How,
sure.
especially for this will be very relatable for those who experience astral travel, um, because it, spirituality and our reality right now, you don't perceive it with your eyes. This is the concept. Your body only perceives what it is in vibrational or frequency resonance or alignment with. I'll explain. When I first experienced astral or popping out of my body, when I started trying it, I popped halfway. Like I went like this sitting, my body's still sleeping. I look back, my body's still sleeping. And almost all astral travelers who have experienced a half body or partial body popping out, we hear a low vibrational tone like something like that. And that is the basic vibrational state of your body. And it only can perceive lower vibrational state like reality, like matter. It couldn't perceive it. Now, this will make some aha on some, but this will is in relation with telepathy. Thoughts and emotions are higher energy form, and when you start awakening, you start evolving your body, and when you start losing more beliefs, and you started when they call it codes, and that
Hmm.
you keep on absorbing codes, your body started vibrating higher, and so at the same time with frequency.
Yes.
And the thing is that when your body now vibrate higher, it now starts to reach the vibrational point of the emotions and thoughts. Now suddenly you are confused, like, how can I hear his thoughts or I can feel someone's emotion? You're starting to gain telepathy. You're starting to tap in that. frequency or vibration. So technically, your body goes up in vibration as well. It's not predetermined that it stays there because right now we're in the journey. Almost everyone. That's why spirituality is very big right now because everyone's elevating and everyone started to see or feel something that we didn't do 10, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because we're just going back to the original design per se. That's gonna be another rabbit hole, but that's how you start perceiving what you don't normally before. Because right now, if you will see a lot of Facebook group who's like astral group, telepathy group, telekinesis group. Suddenly, a huge boom about spirituality and their abilities, clairs and everything.
Hmm.
And even there's a lot of, everyone that um I'm gonna throw it in, but Jesus disappeared 30 years, right? When he's younger, then he went back 30-year old, right? He didn't disappear. He technically went to India and learned Buddhism and stuff,
Yeah.
yogis, technically. I can't remember where. There's even a town, I'm not sure which town is it, that they put in the brand as Mother Mary's brand because she died there and was buried there. I can't remember what town it is, sorry, but she lived. This will throw your guess off. Yeah, Jesus really didn't die on the cross. He have kids.
Oh, that's interesting.
He have kids, and it's gonna be put out soon. There's a huge wave of truth of what happened in that time that is not happening because when you're channeling, I'm gonna tell you this. When I had that spiritual moment, I went to the other side and I get to choose. Are you gonna stay here? Are you technically the real question is like, are you okay to leave them? So technically, when I said I'm fine, I'm done, but I'm here because I choose the latter. They said it's gonna be harder, but I said let's go. So I went to the other side. That's how I started manifesting abilities, and that's why I started talking to these entities that people don't see or sometimes they hear, and it's fun. You'll get a lot of information, but you can't release it because it's not yet time. But now it's the time, and you will see a lot of, even if you don't have to do it, a lot of people will do it for you because they are receiving all the message because the time is right. And that's just one thing. And there's a ton of things that everyone is hiding, which will be coming up. Now, that's why there is too much chaos in the world. It's not chaos, it's just everything is coming up in the surface when everything was all hidden before. All this war, all this chaos, all these viruses and everything. It was all happening under the wraps, but now it's just floating the surface because humanity have to decide if they are okay with it. And as you can see, everyone is choosing the latter. And that drives the humanity on another timeline. Hold on. Am I authorized to say that? Yes. This is another wrench in your nuts. I'm channeling right now as well. There's there's a path before. It's a huge rabbit hole, but you will see people other channeling in here. We are going in the path of destruction way before humanity destruction. You see that movie 2012, everything that Mayan and everything just ends. It's supposed humanity's timeline should have been ended. But what happened is one good branch that we didn't do, branched out of that timeline, and this is that timeline. And that's why if you keep on asking all other psychics to go past or all other records to go past 2012, they wouldn't be able to pull anything because it's another branch where we are now ascending into this new timeline. Um, you will you will you will see this in the next 3 years or so, and some of us, are already seeing them right off the up. The thing that you call ET, humanoids and insectoids, everything, they will pop up or technically be in contact to those who are ready, who are in part of their teams, or everyone have their own team. Everyone have their own set of guides that they pick when they are reincarnated. If you even meditate to go into the time that you need, your like before your birth, you can go back
Yeah.
to it,
Yes.
and that by you going back to it, already shows you that time is not linear and dimension is not linear, to the point that there's too many. That's why when we do readings, we can only read, especially Akashic readers, we can only read the present, because there's only one answer from the Akashic guides all the time when you're trying to read for a future or a past. Future and present, I mean, the future and the past is fluid. It's fluid. I couldn't explain it too much, but it's fluid, meaning it's ever changing and you have the free will to choose. And what my guides are keep on telling me is that there is no wrong decision. It's just, it's either the harder path or the longer path or the shorter path, easier path. But it will still lead you to where you need to be. It's just that that's how you experience your free will. Now, where you want to go is that's how you talk to them, because you have plenty of outcomes. Plenty. You can even have push all those together and have a super grand outcome, but you have to talk to your team. Just by saying this, it's if you want to go to that timeline, you can just say to your team, I want to go to my highest, best timeline, and please guide me there. You will hit multiple synchronicities, and sometimes you will hit triggers that will stop you from doing something to reach there. But
Mhm.
there will be a point in time that they will say, this is multiple doors. All of them are good timelines or high timelines. You pick, you go inside each and test it out and feel free which one you really chose for the future.
So let me interject, but I'm not really interjecting anything because we're
Sure.
on the same timeline
Yeah.
and we're not, we're getting along. So, but basically, so if you understand, this is a cool thing. There's a being on timelines in that kind of
Hmm.
way. If you understand that if people with going with what I just made up, but it isn't really that made up in the sense that if we're in the same kind of plane of consciousness, so to speak, that we're getting along, that it's functional, that if there was honest work and real work that needed to be done, that we would be able to do it together and succeed at it. I would say that's what I'm thinking of as on the same timeline, right? So
Hmm.
us being pretty much there, me and you, Mr. Lawrence, and then understanding that what makes the timelines benevolent is that it's the functionality part. So
Yeah.
someone is there's other people that are attempting to be on the same timeline, but they aren't able to do it in a way that they aren't just that there is at least one thing out of all the things there that are involved that is being destroyed constantly, that is receiving destruction, then that timeline in that way, right? That's why I used to call it like negative or regressive, right?
Hmm.
So understanding that the people, the souls, the infinite souls, the individuals that there's multiplicity of, right? In context of this example, they're not what's being destroyed, but the timeline, the thing they're trying to share because it's failing, does have to be destroyed because and we've just proved it why. So that's how I see timelines, right? In that kind of way. But I understand that we're all individuals, but I like the idea, and the mind and ideas are very
Mhm.
powerful, and power and truth are pretty close, of them being people that are on timelines,
Mhm.
togetherness, right? Because there's a reason that in contemporary culture we have the hashtag forever alone thing, and there's a reason that it's popular, and there's a reason that it gets in there in the feels. So to me, that's the answer of it, and to me, that's ultimately practical. Um,
Mhm.
and God is ultimately love, and I believe in God, and I'm a spiritual guide. So the two and two together on that is that basically those are two dice in the same hand, meaning that they're, you know you're good, you're fair ball, play a ball, no rain, you're good, Joe. Keep going, keep talking, good.
Okay.
But so okay, so the thing I want to wrap up here is I want to kind of, we went through a lot together. Okay. So what I want to do as a master teacher, this is a natural thing, and it's kind of like homework, but it's basically kind of like, you ever do that thing where you type out, it's basically like hitting save, it's, I don't know, that's kind of an analogy. It's basically like you have a lot of ideas or you're doing writing, but what we're doing is we're kind of hitting save on our stuff, meaning that we've taken in a lot of educate it's an educational, healing, inspiring, benevolent experience that we're having. And for us to hit save is basically going over the stuff again, and letting ourselves reap the benefits, right? Reap the benefits of the experience. So there's kind of a mental kind of like ching thing that happens when you allow yourself to do this. It's kind of basically just a recapitulation, but it's also helping people have a proper positioning of mind to be for education. Um, so basically, what I want to say is taking the end of this for that end. So basically, we learned about utilitarianism and utility, and that metaphysics is useful, and that it's not about ignoring or avoiding any aspect of our nature being humans. We've learned from, we've also learned that basically, uh, I even want to say generally as a Leo, the passion that another individual, being you, and I can say I've learned this today from Mr. Lawrence about metaphysics, and how did that resonate with you personally as you being the audience or experiencer of this video that me and him are creating right in this together right now, right? So that's something. I guess we can end the being the Leo part right there, right? But and then basically, um, so yeah, and then so kind of honing it in, because there is kind of like a diadem, or like kind of like, I think like a tiara. Like Joe put on the tiara and Lawrence showed up, and now there's a bunch of diamond points that are all in the same tiara. So what is it that we can do that kind of bring it into our center in ourselves, and what is it that we can reap from it together? So metaphysics and human nature. Well, human nature isn't going anywhere, right? And also knowing that, God and metaphysics, even though they're in a different category, so to speak, or so it seems, from something like science, right? But if you
Mhm.
understand that spirituality, and the title of this podcast is Spiritual Ed, and I'm a spiritual guide, and it's my profession, and then basically that metaphysics and science, that science is based on critical thinking, that's logical thought, and then that's it. So if you understand that science is that, and metaphysics is a direction of that we're heading with our mind, that is, um it's beautiful and it's explorative and there's unknown in it. There's also a history of it in humanity, and that us maintaining and retaining science is beneficial. It's not detrimental, right? That science, just we just defined it. Science is logical thought processes, and logic is an infallible thing. Unlike whatever you're scared of winning if you aren't logical, right? Or so to speak. So then basically, well, I always can go with this one. I know that I love you, right? And I'm someone who's never met you, and I might never ever meet you. And you're seeing me, and you can see a whole bunch of stuff about me because you have my info and you have my links and my books and my videos and the internet and phones, right? And you have all that. Guess what? I love you though. I love you. So the point in there is basically that knowing that that kind of love is real and that it exists. And I have that in myself. And also the cool thing about that kind of love is there's right now in this moment 0% of me is interested or involved on any level of convincing or changing any single being in existence. And to me, if you understand that when you talk about channeling and metaphysics and otherness, and that these other beings can't be controlled by us or be harmed by us, that in that love, that you're in that, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And the human nature part is, ask the anthropologists, discovering, going out, being your own compass, being your own person, being your own man, being your own woman, and hopefully never having to being your own child in context of having to run away from your camp, right? Your house, your family. That's an aspect of human nature. And that if you understand that, that's great. And it's supposed to be that way. But understanding when to stop, understanding, trusting your intuition, right? That I think you could say is a cool thing. I'll throw that to metaphysics. That's a metaphysical thing. That it's intuitive. Well, where did it come from? Where did it go? Nowhere, but it's real, right? So that's why that's a metaphysical thing. And you can see how it's a really cool one of human nature being wanting to adventure, wanting to travel, and then the metaphysics being the intuition, hand in hand with you, right? I think that's great. So anyways, let's do just about 2 more minutes. I'll let you do the end. Okay. So 2 minutes
Okay,
and we will conclude after that. Okay.
sure. Oh, it starts now.
Yes.
Oh, what do I need to say? Probably last. It's not a race. Get on your own. Everything is on your own pace. There is no as long as it resonates, take it and run away with it. If it doesn't, just leave it alone. It is all we are all different perspectives of this realm. It's like you have a glass. Someone on top is saying it's a circle. Someone facing it, it's a square. Someone who have a 3D view of it is saying it's a cup. But all of them is true. But they're just looking at it in different perspectives. So there's gonna be a lot of perspectives out there. You don't have to say which one is true, which one is not, because it's just the same thing. It's just different perspectives. That's it.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Allowing yourself to indulge. There's this thing I have that I came up with that I'm sure would resonate with a lot of people, and I hope that it does. I call it the point about differences. And in this point, it's basically to kind of take away layers of illusion. I could say, as a spiritual guide who's interested in human evolution happening properly, right? That we all experience proper ego loss, right?
Mhm.
Improper ego loss, you could say, is war, right? And not to
Yeah.
laugh, but well, I don't have to not laugh at it, but basically, other people think they might not be. It's illegal to laugh at something like that. That's a problem to me. Um, says life. I like to be enjoyed. Laughing isn't the problem. War is the problem. But so this point about differences is basically that differences are not something that are subject, like they're not subject to our control, and there's something that are innate. They are inborn in existence, like in the fabric of reality. And basically, if you look at that, you as a being are wasting your time by struggling with that truth on any possible level forever. Amen. So basically, if you understand that, you, right, are because you deserve to be happy, right, and not suffer needlessly, which is my foundational truth. You deserve to be happy, or we all deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. So in that, where does it say avoid healing, right, like the plague? Nowhere. So then
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you look at this in context of the actuality, we have differences that Lawrence is going to look different than me. I can't control him. I can't be him, and vice versa. He can't be me. I'm never going to not look the way that I look, so to speak, or Lawrence is never going to not be able to project beliefs into Joseph and control Joseph and all these different things. And then basically, that's the case. So now it's up to you if you actually, you and you alone forever. And the proof of that, it's only your business, because healing is only ever the individual soul's business. It can't ever not be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically from there, if you understand that, the first step and the only time that is ever going to happen, because it only needs to happen once, being the first step, so it's permanently established towards genuine healing forever, so to speak, is you coming out of the denial of in the acceptance of that, in the acceptance that that's true, that's actual, and that your happiness, genuine happiness, can never, the path towards it and the whole thing can never exist devoid or separate from genuine healing. And then being in that with me here in that truth, you'll start that little lock on the door to that will start to break, will start to dissolve. And then you'll have taking that first step on the path of actual genuine healing. That basically we mentioned at the beginning of this manifestation, your relationship to the universe. For example, understanding that free will, free choice is an inevitability, that we have to do that we have to participate in life in that way. If it just is, it's the way it is. So understanding that all of that stuff in there that's being that really is we're talking in words and truth and everything, but there's something that cogs the engine of all of that truth, and all it is denial. That's all that stuff is in there, is denial. So basically, that's my job, is not to perpetuate that, right? Not to perpetuate unnecessary suffering, and to take people out of denial by being healed, knowing myself, and speaking and embodying the truth. We mentioned Jesus Christ. He's a great figure to mention in context of that.
Yep.
Yeshua, the ascended master. And understanding that, there's a reason that we look to Jesus about unconditional love, in the sense that he doesn't have a body anymore, but yet people are still talking about him. Another point, a win in context and comparison, hopefully to nothing, for metaphysics.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, so I would say, I guess I could say a prayer here at the end. Is there anything you want to say that came up during that you want to say real quick? And then we'll basically wrap up in literally 2 minutes. And
I'm all good.
we're good. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Lawrence Valencia, Valencia. What is your channel? Angelus Ray.
Regalia Collective.
Can you spell it for us real quick, or something? Or
You can go to my link tree. It's
oh,
there
it's
as
right
well. It's
on the screen. It's on the screen next to his name.
yep.
Angelus Regalia. There you are.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess I'll throw out some of my info again here. My YouTube, Joe Vertino, and also there's a Joseph Vertino. I'm on Amazon.com right now under Joseph H. Vertino. The Reform of the Education System, The Nothingness of Love, a Buddhist book of poetry, the Reiki Bible, A Guide to Reiki Living. I have those 3 on there. And forgive me if there's the other one on there is a real book, but it got stuck on the site with a formatting issue. And it's called My Own Religion, The Power of Love. If you message me, I can send you the link, like over an email, the book. And I'm sorry, it's just on there. It's formatted wrong. But anyways, and I'm on Barnes and Noble Press under Joseph H. Vertino, or without the H, maybe barnesandnoblepress.com. Although all those are ebooks, and hopefully soon they'll be physical printed books. And I have, what else do we have? Music on SoundCloud, Joe HV on SoundCloud, and Instagram, Andromeda Joe 811 if you're interested in that. My TikTok is Joe Vertino. I think that's it. Oh, Facebook is Joe H Vertino, I believe. It might be Hastings, Hastings, Joe Hastings Vertino on my personal profile on Facebook. But anyways, thank you, much love, much respect. I hope this made you feel. We could even say it made me feel. I had been numb before this video. Who knows what the things have gone on in people's lives, and that there's people that are passionate, and then that's it. And there's something about that energy that brings people out of a very, very real sticky situation. That's how the universe works. That people who are tend to be not shying away from the truth are in that place where they can help humanity more than it directly true, more than other people. And my prayer is basically that those people like myself, and I could say Lawrence also in that kind of way, if that wasn't true, after Mr. Valencia's spiritual awakening, he would have basically went like that. He wouldn't have went like, whoa, right? That's the truth of the whole situation. And with me, you could probably tell with the way that I speak and I move and everything like that. But anyways, I pray the same thing over you, that you can. Do you want to say hi? You can say hi.
Oh no, he left.
Okay,
It's
okay.
okay.
So I pray that over you, everybody, that you can be emboldened in that way and allow yourself to know that. Remember, if it comes up, I love you. That this random guy loves me. That God loves you, and that you don't particularly have to do anything to make that continue, which I think is a huge relief. And then also, I pray that you find your right footing, like I mentioned, getting your right foot in the door of genuine healing, and understanding that you deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. So I pray that over you. Thank you so much. All right. Angel
Thank
bless
you.
you for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.